Everyone. So today we are going to learn about array, all right, in the concept of object oriented. Okay, let's start. So the motivation behind this, okay, so actually why we need to learn array. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that you already learned the basic concept of programming, so you already know about this, all right, because you already took the programming techniques, and you supposed to already familiar actually how to understand the concept of array, because we already in the middle of the semester, so by now I'm expecting you to be fluent with Java programming, and then with the concept of object-oriented programming, okay, using classes and all that. Okay, so when we want to use array actually is a way of we organize the data that we have. Okay, so that if for example if we have a lot of data, okay, if we have 100 different student object names, okay, we have 100 object of students, and then array will make it easier for you to access a specific student, to search, and also to delete, and also to add data to the array. Okay, so when you use array, it can be multiple objects of the same type. Okay, for example, string name, and then you declare the person name as John. Okay, so you can declare another one. John will be the first object, and then will be assigned to the first array. And then you can declare another person with a different name. Okay, but it will make it easier for you to access all those data if you put it in an array, array. Okay, so actually array is a single name for a collection of data values, all of the same data type. And then the subscript or the index, the subscript or the index here is actually, in a simple way, is the location. All right, the location of the data, so to identify one of the values. Okay, you will see the example later, and then you will have the idea. So you can also use for loop. Okay, you use for loop, and then you include array, and then it will make you easy to access values in your array. For example, if you have thousands of data in your array, so using for loop and then put the condition in your for loop, and it will be easier for you to search the data. So now, how can you declare an array? Okay, there are two ways of declaring it. Okay, there's variation 1 and variation 2. In variation 1, you type the data type, and then you put the square bracket, and then the variable. The second one, the variation 2, you type data type, variable, and then the square bracket. Both ways are correct. All right, so you can use either way that you are comfortable with. And then array creation. Okay, when you want to create the array, you write the variable equal new, and then write the data type, and then in the square bracket you put the size of the array. Okay, so let's see at the example here. So we have both example for variation 1 and variation 2. Okay, let's take a look at this one. How to do this? Pen. There's a pointer. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Okay, variation 1. Okay, so variation 1, how we declare? We declare like this. Okay, data type, square bracket, and a variable. So data type here, integer, square variable, and then the square bracket, and then the variable here is mark. Okay, and then we create the array. Variable, which is mark, new, integer, data type, and then the size of the array, which is 12. For this one, we are creating an array with the size of 12. Okay, so moving on to the variation 2 here. So we declare variation 2 by writing data type, variable, and then square bracket. So data type here, double, mark, the variable, and then the square bracket. And then for the array creation, you have to do the same as variation 1, which is mark equal new integer and then the size of the array, which is 12. Okay, so it's like as it says here, when you're creating array, it's like creating an object. Okay, so if you should be familiar already about creating the object that we have learned from the beginning of the semester. Okay, now let's move on. So when you create the array, right, integer, square bracket, mark equal to new integer, which is 12. Okay, you are creating 12, the size of the array is gonna be 12. Array, the position of the array, it starts with 0. Here you can see mark 0. So this is the position of the array. So if you want to refer to value in this table, you have to refer to the position here. Okay, since the size is 12, so the position will start with 0 and will end with 11. Okay, so 12 minus 1, 11. Okay, so name of the array, okay, mark, and then in the bracket index, okay, index or subscript of the element in the array. Okay, like I said earlier, the location. And then for example, mark 10. Okay, if we write mark 10, so the output we will get is the output from here. Okay, this index expression refers to the element at position number 10. Alright, so this is the general syntax for declaring an array. Okay, so the base type, example, base type, curly bracket, the array name equal to new, base type, and the length. The length here is the size of the array. Okay, let's take a look at the example. So let's say if you have 80 elements, okay, 80 elements array with a base type char. Okay, how you can write that? Char, square bracket, symbol equal to new char, and then 80, which is the size of the array that you choose. And then for 100 element array of doubles, double, square bracket, reading equal to new double, square bracket 100. And 70 element of array of car, car, square bracket car equal to new car 70. Okay. So default initialization is when you create array, so it will automatically assign you with a initialized value. All right. So if you are using numeric data types such as integer, double, etc., the index, okay, the index of the array will begin with 0, like this one. Okay, it begins with 0. And then Boolean values, which is true or false, it will begin with false. And for char values, it will start with the Unicode for a blank character. And then for class types, it will begin with no. All right. So these are some of the array terminology. So it's just an example so that you can understand. All right. So for example, here we have the array name, temperature, and then it shows here index here is n plus 2. Okay, what is index n plus 2? Because what we know, index should be like right here, right? Index should be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when it says index n plus 2, that means you have to initialize the value of n. Okay, so for example here, index n plus 2, we are trying to access the value in the array location n plus 2. So index, also called as subscript, it must be integer on expression to an integer. And then index variable, also called an element or subscripted variable, and the value of the index variable, also called the element of the array. For example, like you say here, if you want to access specific data in your array, then you can put, for example, here you want to access data temperature. You don't know in what location it's gonna be, so you just include it in your for loop, and then it will search for you. Okay, so index, let's take a deeper understanding on how can we work with index. So we also call index as subscript. Okay, so when you encounter person that are using subscript, that means they are also referring to index if you are working in an array. So the position number in square bracket, okay, mark 10, like for example, like here, mark 10, and it must be positive integer or integer expression. Okay, integer expression is like earlier, n plus 2 or n minus 1. Okay, so it must be positive. Okay, index cannot be negative. Okay, an array of size n is indexed from 0 to n minus 1. Okay, that means array marks hold 12 values that index from 0 to 11. What it means is the size of index, okay, it must be less n minus 1. For example, if you see here, okay, right, the size we declare here 12, and then the value of the index here 11. So it must be minus 1 than the size of the index, the size of the array. Okay. So initializing array values in declaration. So you want to initialize the the first index. Okay, so it can be initialized by putting a comma separated list in braces. Okay, uninitialized elements will be assigned to some default value. So if you didn't assign any element to your array, it will automatically assign 0 to the value. Okay, so the length of an array is automatically determined when the values are explicitly initialized in the declaration. Okay, for example here, double square bracket reading equal to 5.1, 3.02, 5.65. That means all of this will be added into the array. This will be in one location, this will be another location, this will be in another location. That means each of these value will have their own index reference. Okay, so when you are trying to initialize array element in a loop, you can use for loop. So how can you use it? Okay, let's take a look at the example here. So we have integer square bracket mark equal to new integer 12. So we want the array, we are creating array with size 12. Okay, and now we want to initialize the value of the data in our array. Okay, so for integer I equal to 0, okay, that means the first integer will be 0. I less than mark dot length I plus plus. Okay, that means the loop will keep going as long as I is less than mark dot length. Okay, so mark, it will refer to I equal to I plus 5. That means the initialized element in this array is gonna be a value I plus 5, and then it will keep looping until it arrive the final index of the array. Okay, for integer z equal to 0, z less than mark dot length z plus plus. That means we are trying to print the array, system out print line, and then print the value. Okay, you can try this code if you want to see the output. Okay, so let's see the array like this, the for loop, that when we type this, and then let's see how it works inside the array. Okay, so here we have array with a size of 12, right? So we will have 0 until 11. Okay, and then we set the first value, which is 5. Okay, 5, and then it keep on increasing until the final index. Okay, and then for example, if we want to try to access this value 15, how can we do that? This is how we can do. Mark square bracket 10, referring to the index of this array. If we type mark 10, it will give you the output of 15, which is this value. Okay, the array length. Okay, so actually array length are fixed length. Okay, length is specified at the create time. So in Java, all arrays store the allocated size in a variable name called length. Okay, so the length of the array can be accessed by writing array name dot length. Okay, for example, you want to know the size of the array in you got a program, you got a code, and you want to know the size of the array in that code. So this is how you can do. You can system.out print line and then mark.length. It will print the length of the array. So like here it will display 3, the length of the array here, which is we have 3 data here, 5.1, 3.02, 9.65. Okay. So when you got an error, okay, if there are something wrong with the code, okay, for example, if you are using index which is larger than the length minus 1, or if you are trying to access the index which is negative length, it will cause a time error. Okay, it will give you the error of index out of bound exception. Okay, if you get this kind of error when you are writing your code, when you are developing your program, you should check again your array, your for loop, how you create your array, the size and everything. Okay, and then normally your program will be terminated unless if you use the try. Basically in Java, we are not limited to fixed size array declarations. So you can refer to the code here. It is showing that how the user can try to define the size of an array and declares an array. Okay. So now let's move on to the two-dimensional array. Okay. So when we are talking about two-dimensional arrays, it actually very useful in representing a tabular information. So if you have a table, you have rows and then you have columns, and you want to represent the data, and then it comes the use of two-dimensional arrays. Okay, you can actually access the specific value. For example, here you can access this value specifically if you put this data in a two-dimensional array. So this is the same like previous one. So when you are declaring and creating 2D array, so you will also have variation 1 and variation 2 like previous one. So first you declare the data type, and then there are 2 square bracket, which is the rows and the column, and then variables. Or you can also do like this: data type, variable, and rows, column. The size of the row and the size of the column. Okay, so and then when you are trying to create, you put variable equal to new data type, and then size 1, size 2, which is this is size the row, and then this is the size of the column. So for example, here we have double bracket base scale table. That means we are creating a base scale table, and then base scale table equal to new double 4 and 5. That means the size of the rows and then the size of the column. So when you are trying to access the element in a tabular array, in a 2D array, okay, you can actually access it in a specific location. For example, here, if you want to access this value here, right, 36.50, how you can do it? Base scale table, the row number, okay, the row number which is 2, and then the column number 1. Base scale table, square bracket 2, square bracket 1, it will refer to you this value in the table. So this is the sample for you to create the 2D array. Okay, so actually when you write this Pascal table is equal to new double square 4 and 5, so it's actually a short form of this. Okay, this is how actually how this works. Okay, so it is creating every column and every row for you. Okay, so now let's take a look at the example. Okay, for array of the object. So we will use the person object to illustrate the use of an array of objects. Okay, so the person class support the set methods and get methods. Okay, so we have person class here, and then we declare the person John. Okay, we set the name and set the age and set gender. Alright, so when we write person bracket person, we are only declaring the person. Okay, but we did not allocate any array yet. Okay, when we execute this code. Okay, but when we execute this code, okay, person equal to new person 20. So that means now the array for storing 20% object is created. So we are creating an array that can store 20% 20% object. Okay, but the person object themselves are not yet created. Okay, so we are just creating the array first. Okay, we have array here from index 0 to index 19, but there are still no information yet in here. Okay, there are still empty, no information in this array. Now when we create this code, person 0 equal to new person, that means we are specifically referring here, person 0, we are specifically referring to the index 0. So one person object is created and the reference to this object is placed in this position 0. That means we are creating one person object in the array. Okay, so this is the sample how you can create person objects and set up the person array. Okay, you can try this code at home if you want to have more understanding in how the coding works here. Okay, it is really useful, right? It is really useful for your assignment too, because I will check if you implement if you implement array or not. Okay, so basically here it will read in all the data values, and then here it will create new person and assign the values. Okay, that is how it works. And then this is the example how you can access the data in the array. Okay, so in this code we are trying to find the youngest and the oldest person. Okay, this is the example how you can do it. Okay, by including the condition in your for loop, and then is trying to find by putting the minimum IDX to find the younger person and max IDX to find an older person. Okay, so how you can also delete the data in the array. Okay, so this is the example. Okay, how you can delete the data. So person delete ID X equal to now. So that means delete person B by setting the reference in position 1 to null. And then, so before it executed, okay, this is before. Okay, before we run this line, so we have person A, B, C, D. A referring to index 0, B 1, C index 2, D index 3. And then now we execute this line of code, person deal IDX equal to now, because we already declare here deal IDX equal to 1. Okay, it is referring to the first index equal to now, so we are removing object B, person B from the array. And then how about if we want to delete person B by setting the reference in position 1 to the last person. So, okay, we have this integer delete ID, and then we declare it as 1, and then the last person equal to 3. Okay, so before we execute this, we have this array, right? So after we execute this line of code, okay, it will replace this value D to the first index, and then the last one already set to null. Okay, all right. Now let's move on to the sample number 3. How we can search for a particular person. Okay, approach 2 is used. So we are trying to try to find a person named Latte in this array. Okay, so we use this while statement. Okay, if we have a person, if a person I equal to now, so that means Miss Latte was not in the array. If we found it, we found Miss Latte at position what? Okay, we print the position that we got from this loop. Okay, now how to pass the array method. Okay, so for example here we have this set of array, right? So in this set of array we want to pass the value. Okay, so the local variable number does not exist before the method execution. Okay, so that means before we execute anything, the array should be empty, right? But after we execute the method, okay, we execute the method, the value of the argument, which is an address, is copied to the parameter. That means it's passing the value number to the array. Okay, so this is how what is happening behind your code. Okay, you work on the code and then this is what's happening. This is how the computer are transferring the information. Okay, so and then when you run C, the array is accessed via number inside the methods, like we learned earlier. Okay, how we access the specific data inside the array by writing the correct index value. And then erase. Okay, the parameter is erased. The argument still point to the same object like we did earlier. We erase the value. And then the argument are still referring to the same object. Okay, so I hope you understand how array works and how you can use it in your program. Um, so as you all know, I have uploaded the assignment 2 on Kalam, and together with the rubric, I also uploaded the rubric. So please refer to the rubric and follow it, because based on assignment 1, some of you lose the marks easily because they did not follow the rubric. Okay, because when I mark, I follow what I've stated in the rubric. Okay, so if I stated there you have to create multiple classes, that means you have to create multiple classes lah. If you just give me one structured code, just one file, that's not a multiple classes. Okay, when I say multiple classes, that means I'm expecting you submit to me have like at least 3 classes. More is better. Okay, so yeah, I hope you all try your best to finish your assignment 2. Try your best and give me the best. Okay, so good luck, and then I will see you during the lab session. Okay, bye.